Hello, sixth graders. Welcome to our next math lesson. Today's lesson, we're going to take a look at lesson 36. And the subject is dealing with subtracting fractions as well as mixed numbers from an actual whole number. And the lesson itself is going to be found on page 187 in our book. So up until this time, we've done problems like this before where we've taken like a whole number 1 and we want to subtract 3/4 from it. And if you remember what we did with this, the only way we can really add and subtract fractions is if our denominators are the same. And the denominators, again, this is a review, is the bottom number in our fraction. And in this fraction here, I have 3/4, and you should see that the denominator is 4, which means over here, in order for me to add or subtract, I need to also have this side over here to be a denominator of 4. But right now, it's just a whole number 1, okay? Now, how do I change this? Well, remember, you can change any whole number into a fraction just simply by putting it over 1. So in essence, this right here is very similar to just 1 over 1. That's really what these two right here are saying, the exact same thing. Now, if I want to change this where the bottom number is 4, that means I need to multiply the top and the bottom number by 4 in order for me to do that, because I got to multiply by some unit of 1. So when I do this, what I can do is I can change this 1. So you're going to kind of cross this 1 out. And I'm going to change this to 4 over 4, okay? Now, if this fraction here was like, I don't know, like 3/8 instead of 3/4, then I would want to change this to 8 over 8 because I want the bottom numbers to be the same. That's going to be the key for today, making sure that those bottom numbers are the same. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this so it's not overly confusing to us. Okay, so now what I've done is I've taken my whole number 1 and I've changed it to 4 over 4 because, again, 4 over 4 is the same as 1. Even though I changed the numbers, I didn't change the value. The value is still the same. Both of these equal 1. And now that the denominators are the same, now I can go ahead and subtract these. So if I do 4 minus 3, 4 minus 3 is 1. And again, whenever you add or subtract denominators, you do not change the denominator at all. It's not, you're not going to take 4 minus 4 equals 0. That's not going to work. Since the bottom number is 4, you keep those as 4. And so this right here would be my answer. So if I take 1 minus 3/4, we know that that answer is 1/4. Now, you're going to use the same idea here in today's lesson. The only difference is this number out front might not just be a 1. It's going to be a different whole number. It could be 2, 7, 19, 45, whatever. But the same idea is in play here. What you're trying to do is take this whole number 1 and subtract it by a fraction. Well, right now, this number is a fraction and this side's not. So what I'm going to do is I want to take a 1. I actually want to subtract this fraction from 1. But right now there's a 2 here. So what you're going to do is you're going to borrow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 2 and I'm going to cross out the 2 and I'm going to put a 1 up top. And I'm borrowing 1, so now I'm going to change that 2 to a 1. So if you think of it, all I did was I changed the 2 to a 1 and the 1 is up here. I'm going to keep this up here for a later use, okay? Now, it's just like this problem over here where I want to take 1 minus 3/4. So now what I'm taking 1 minus 4/9. And again, I want to get the denominators to be the same number. And since this denominator is already 9, I'm going to change this 1 to 9 over 9. Remember, anytime the numerator and the denominator are the same number, that means it's equal to 1. So now what I've done is I've changed this 1 to a 9/9. And now I'm going to go ahead and subtract these two numbers together. So I'm going to take 5 minus 4, 9 minus 4, I can't talk today, which is 5. And then again, I'm not going to change that denominator, so that stays the same. So right now I have 5/9. Now I'm not done because now this whole number that's left over here, remember, I only had to borrow 1 from here. So the 2 became a 1. Now this number here actually goes out in front with this fraction. So then the answer is going to be 1 5/9, okay? And that's what we're doing for today. We're really borrowing one number. We're just borrowing 1 from this first number here and subtracting the fractions. On this page, we got a few problems that are very similar to one we just did a minute ago, except this time you might have mixed numbers here. And so there's going to be an additional subtraction that needs to take place. So the first thing we want to focus on today is just the fractions. So just kind of ignore the fact that there's a 2 here right now. You know, some people might even just go ahead and bring that 2 up and just say, I'm going to ignore that 2 for right now. I'm just going to pretend it's not there. I just want to focus on the fractions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow 1 from this 8. So I'm going to borrow 1. That means I have 7 left over. I'm going to put that up above. So right now my whole numbers are kind of just sitting up here. I'm not going to do anything with those until I get done subtracting my fractions. Now I want to change this 1 where I have a denominator of 5. Well, if I do that, that 1 is going to change into 5 over 5. Okay, so that 1 now becomes 5 over 5. Now I can go ahead and subtract the fractions. 5 minus 2 is 3. And then again, the denominator does not change. So 1 minus 2/5 is 3/5, all right? Now I'm going to go back and subtract those whole numbers that were kind of left over. This 2, remember, I'm not going to subtract 8. I'm going to subtract 7 because I had to borrow 1 in order to subtract the fractions. So we take 7 minus 2. 7 minus 2 is 5. So we would say that this final answer here is 5 3/5. Okay, so the same idea over here. I have 11. I'm going to subtract 4 1/8. So again, I want to get rid of this 4. I'm just going to move it up. I'm not really getting rid of it. I'm just kind of getting it out of my way so I don't get confused. So the 4 I move up, and now I'm left with this 1/8. I'm going to borrow 1 from the 11. So I'm going to borrow 1 from the 11, and so I borrow my 1 from 11, and the other 10 I'm going to put up here because ultimately I'm going to subtract these 2 numbers at the very end, okay? Then I'm going to change the 1 where the denominator is 8. Well, that would change to 8 over 8. Again, anytime the top number and the bottom number are the same number, 8/8 is equal to 1, okay? And now I'm going to go ahead and subtract here. So I have 8 minus 1, which is 7. All right, and then I have 8, so that bottom number is going to be 8. So right now, 1 minus 1/8 is 7/8. Now I'm going to go back and subtract these numbers up here. 10 minus 4, 10 minus 4 is 6. So I'd say that my final answer here is 6 7/8. We're going to do 2 more problems here just to make sure we got this concept understood. Again, I'm taking 10, I'm going to subtract 1 5/8. So I'm going to take this 1 and just kind of get it out of my way for right now so it's not confusing. I'm going to borrow 1 from the 10. Okay, so I'm borrow 1 from the 10, and that means I have 9 left over. And so ultimately at the end, I'm going to subtract those 2 numbers, but I'll do that at the end. Now I'm going to change this 1 into a fraction, and I want the fraction to be the same as this denominator over here, which is 8. Okay, so that means these are going to become 8 over 8. So that 1 that I borrowed now becomes 8 over 8. And now I'm going to subtract that. 8 minus 5 is 3. Okay, and then the 8's here, so I have 3/8. So basically 1 minus 5/8 is 3/8. And now I'm going to go back to subtract the whole numbers. 9 minus 1, 9 minus 1 is actually 8 as well. So I'll go ahead and put the 8 in front there. So that means my final answer is going to be 8 3/8. Okay, our last example here, same idea here. I'm going to take 7. I'm going to subtract 4 2/7. So again, I'm just going to move that 4 up, kind of just get it out of my way for right now so it doesn't confuse me too much. Now I'm going to borrow 1 from the 7. So I'm going to borrow 1 from the 7, and then I'm going to bring 6 up top. And ultimately, I'm going to subtract those 2 numbers later. Now I'm taking 1 minus 2/7. So I want to change this whole number 1 to a fraction where the denominator is 7. So this would now become 7/7. Okay, 7/7. So that 1 becomes 7/7. Now I can go ahead and subtract this. 7/7 minus 2/7, and that's going to equal 5/7. All right. And then lastly, go back and don't forget to subtract those whole numbers that are sitting up here. So 6 minus 4 is 2. So finally, the answer is going to be 2 5/7. So again, the idea here is keep this whole number where it is. You're probably going to have to borrow 1 from this number out here, and then don't forget to subtract these whole numbers up here, and just change the 1 into whatever the denominator is over here. So if this is a 7, change it to 7/7. Since this was an 8, I changed that to 8/8. Back over here, this was a 5, so I changed it to 5/5. All right, so your assignment for today, 6th graders, is going to be found on pages 188 through 190. And it looks like there are 10 practice set problems. So we're going to go into number 20 today. So you're going to do letters A through 20. If you have any questions on any of the problems, please don't hesitate to ask for help. I'm here to help you the best that I can. If I don't hear anything from you, that means you're probably doing hopefully a good job. Again, if you don't understand maybe a couple of those problems that we just did a minute ago, don't be afraid to rewatch the video or ask for help. I'm here to help you. If not, good luck on the assignment today, sixth graders, and we'll see you with the next video.